All right, let's get your calls at 217-629-7970. That's the phone number here for Springfield's Morning News, where you can answer the question, do you think that Illinois' gun ban and registry is going to be shot down by the courts, or do you think that the states will succeed in defending the law? And we'll get to phone calls here in a moment, including one that's been very patient, waiting throughout the commercial break, so stay tuned for that. But I did want to just air some of what we've heard so far this morning, in particular with a third temporary restraining order being issued against the state from enforcing the gun ban and registry against another 2,100 individuals after a White County decision that was for around 1,690 individuals, and then a Effingham County case impacting 866 individuals. So out of the Macon County case that was decided yesterday, State Representative Dan Calkins was the lead plaintiff in that case. And here's some of what Dan had to say yesterday after sharing the news that he won a temporary restraining order.
A statewide TRO. This is the third TRO that's been granted. We now have a patchwork of TROs and 2,000 or 3,000 people that are covered by the TRO. Not fair to all the rest of the citizens. However, the judge took that under advisement, decided it wasn't in his purview, so he did what he could do for us, and we'll march on and get the permanent TRO as best we can.
So another hearing in that case is scheduled for sometime in March, but when we talked with Jerry Stocks, he is the attorney for Dan Calkins. We talked with him last hour, and of course you can see that on WMAY, the Facebook feed, or on my YouTube channel. Just search Bishop on Air and you can find that. But here's some of what Jerry Stocks had to say last hour when we talked about how he's not going to wait for that court hearing to move forward beyond a temporary restraining order to instead focus on getting a permanent injunction.
My view, and of course there'll be discussion with the named plaintiffs, that our next step would be moving for the declaratory judgment attacking on its face, which is part of our alternative relief that we did not move forward on, but that we filed the motions on already. And we will not wait to March 20 for that. We will, I anticipate, move for that and then be subject to when the court would schedule us for hearing.
So we'll see ultimately what happens in that case. But those are just state-level cases. Those aren't the federal-level cases. You've got cases from the gun dealers. You've got cases from the National Shooting Sports Foundation. You've got a case from the State Rifle Association seeming to be lumped together in federal court. I talked with Illinois State Rifle Association's Executive Director, Richard Pearson, earlier this morning, and he shared with us some of the frustration that's mounting. He visited with some gun owners yesterday late. He was able to get back, but he said that they are very frustrated and upset. And all of this is costing money all around, and not just, the plaintiffs filing to sue the states in attorney's fees, but taxpayers are having to foot the bill for all of this. Here's Richard Pearson. Original restraining order hit on all from earlier this morning when I chatted with Richard Pearson. Let me get this queued up just right for you here and go.
But they practice delay. It's aggravating. It also eats, of course, our money. They're defending the suit with our money, and we're suing them with our money. So they don't have anything to lose. Of course, we do. So we have to keep pressing forward. Just on the financial end of it.
So you can see that it's obviously something that's impacting taxpayers across the board and gun owners across the board as well. What do you think? We've got less than a month in of a gun ban that's been enacted by Governor J.B. Pritzker, 3 state-level cases where temporary restraining orders are issued, a slew of federal cases that are moving its way through the courts. Where do you see this going? Thanks for being patient with me. Good morning. You're on WMAY. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'm very hopeful that finally the right to bear arms is going to be put into a court and argued the way it should be, thanks to the Bruin case from the Supreme Court. where the Bruin case is going to be able to change what happens in courts from past cases that have been decided, because most of these courts use precedents to argue the case of a state being able to regulate the Second Amendment. The Bruin case is that the Supreme Court just went through is going to open it up on the fact is that these cases now can be argued about the fundamental right of it, how it was created, why it was created from the founding. Because our Declaration of Independence is what secures our natural rights, because the government was created to protect our natural rights. Natural rights don't come from government, comes from our Creator. So once this case is heard with the Bruin decision, we can go back, and these states have got to argue where in the natural founding of our country and the right to bear arms, does it even say you can regulate by a FOID card, by the type of weapon, etc. So,
well, but you hear the arguments. These AR-15s are, quote, weapons of war, or that the founding fathers only had muskets when they wrote the Second Amendment. You're saying that those arguments are no longer valid.
Right. Yes, and exactly. The Barbary War is a prime example, the mark of reprisal, and the government gave private people, private ships, the ability to go and fight in the Barbary War. That's an example right there that in our natural founding, our government did not worry about what kind of firearms or military grade equipment when they went to war.
Well, it's an interesting point you raised there, because in the United States, we don't have government manufacturing bombs and tanks and jets. No, we actually contract with private companies like Boeing and Lockheed Martin and all these other private companies that get contracts to build these weapons that are used in warfare.
And another thing to look at too, Greg, is the Second Amendment was not about hunting. It wasn't about target practice. It was about being able to fight tyranny of government. And in this law itself, who is exempt from the banning of a Glock or the restriction of an AR?
Or a magazine of more than 10 rounds for a rifle, or more than 15 rounds for a handgun. It's police, retired police, jailers, wardens, security contractors.
So the argument right there is the fact is the original intent of the Second Amendment was to be able of the people to protect their life, liberty, property, and do it in any way, shape, or form that they wanted. That was Samuel Adams' Rights of the Colonists.
Well, hey, you're obviously well-versed in the history of all of this. I appreciate you being patient and sitting through some of the commercial break and sharing your thoughts. Where are you calling from?
Greg. I'm calling from Little Chicago. It's called Peoria, Illinois.
Little Chicago, okay. Also known as Peoria. Hey, I appreciate the call, and thanks for listening in online as well, all the way from Peoria. Got to take a break. It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. I'm Greg Bishop. You can follow along with me on Twitter, Bishop on Air. You can also find me on YouTube, Bishop on Air, or on Instagram and Facebook. Just search Bishop on Air everywhere, and we can connect that way. All right, stay